Ever wonder why so many smart people say stupid stuff? Wouldn't it be great if there was a manual so they would know what to say, when to say it at the right time? Well, there is. I wrote it. My name is Andrew Jacobs. I am the son of a printer. I am germphobic, have obsessive compulsive and attention deficit disorder. I'm also the only American who is currently a chairman of a publicly held company in Malaysia with over 200 people in our various companies worldwide. I've had the same wonderful wife for 31 years, 3 great kids, and I found the secret to a better life. My name is Andrew Jacobs. Welcome to my world. Welcome to the Ideal Owner's Manual for Life. It's based on my 39 years in our family's printing business. I thought you could use a little background before we go further. Ideal Jacobs Corporation has multiple locations worldwide with more than 200 employees. I'm based here at our plant in Maplewood, New Jersey, where our team, during the week, often spends more time with each other than our families at home. One of my jobs is to keep everyone as happy and productive as possible, but like everywhere else, we have our share of conflicts. Life is based on relationships, getting along, making that happen better is what I do. Use your brain and think rationally for a moment. What do you want? You want to be happier in your life, have better relationships, you want less stress and problems, you want to smile more and be angry less. How do you do that? Follow the rules. What rules, you may ask? My 8 rules of life. How did I develop them? Through years of hard-worn practice, disaster, a few successes, and some good experiences too. Will they work for you? I have no idea. Give me 25 minutes and let's try. Who knows, maybe it'll change your life. And now, rule number 3. You'll never have a chance to get what you want until you first ascertain and fulfill the needs of the individual with whom you're dealing. What's that mean? As with many things in life, it is simple, not easy. Here's a sequence of what needs to happen. 1. You have to embrace the concept that you will not have your needs fulfilled immediately. A very difficult idea for almost everyone, because by the laws of nature and survival, we're genetically programmed to want to satisfy our desires for food, shelter, sex, security, and everything else of value first before sharing it with others. 2. We have to be able to figure out what other people want before we can help them. The problem with that is what they say verbally is often not what they really want, need, or is good for them. This makes it really hard to define what you can do for them first before having a hope of getting what you want next. 3. Using verbal and nonverbal communication skills can get you a pretty good idea of what they really want, but in order to do that, it will probably mean you'll have to give up something you want first. You'll have to decide if the trade is worthwhile before moving forward. 4. And finally, the toughest part of all. Once you accomplish the first 3 tasks, there's no guarantee you'll get all or part of what you want. It doesn't sound like a good bet, does it? You give everything, and then you only have a chance to get what you want in return. But that's the reason you have to have multiple relationships and work all the time, so you can up your odds of success overall. Sorry, I know it doesn't sound like a great deal, but it's the best I can do. But you can be happy with the knowledge that almost no one understands this concept. People spend their whole lives in a selfish, emotional cloud, where their main concerns are themselves, or maybe their immediate family. But generally, they only care about what happens to them, and they think a lot of that is unfair, unlucky, or the world is against them. In truth, though, the main reason for their unhappiness is they don't understand this concept, and the few select who do are manipulate them in a way to give them a little of what they want so they can get what they want in return.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cooper Matthijssen, and I'm President Jacobs' press secretary. Today he's holding his first international press conference to address the issue of world peace. He figures since world peace is such an issue nowadays and politics are in such turmoil, it's something that needs to be addressed. Please hold all your questions until the end. Without further ado, President Jacobs.
Thank you, everyone. World peace sounds impossible, doesn't it? But it's not. It's really not. The problem is that most people look at world peace that it has to happen at the same time for everybody. It really doesn't have to happen that way. It happens when 2 people start working together, get along, and it is their own best interest to keep getting along. It's like with two businesses here in the United States. Business A sells to business B pays for it. Business A then sells more to business B. They pay for more of it, and so on and so on and so on over time. It's not brain surgery. It's nothing all that miraculous. It's simply the advantage of knowing that one person can start, another person helps, and they help each other to continue building the relationship. That means they will both make more money and both have the chance to build bigger businesses, to make things better, to have families that can grow, and to have businesses that can grow, and to have more people on payroll, and to pay more taxes, and have more infrastructure. And everything grows on everything else. People working together is the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be tearing each other down. If you got the chance to make a better life for your family, most people will try it, and they'll go for it, and they'll stay with it as long as they see an avenue that will work. If one person has everything, everybody else is going to hate them and try and tear it down. If everybody has something and can work toward more, that is building a community, a country, and a world. And it is possible to do it. We just have to start small and remember what is possible and can be done. We now introduce our newest segment called Everything Happens While Dating. For this, I'm only going to speak from the male point of view. In fact, the only advice I will ever give you, anytime, comes from events that actually have happened to me. I base nothing on theory or the teaching of others. I do not accept advice from anyone who makes less money than I do or is working from a what should be as opposed to hard-won experience, and neither should you. Back to dating, which is the greatest metaphor for life because dating involves relationships, and relationships or lack thereof determine our status and success in the world. Remember, you have to make the other person happy before you get what you want, and that commodity of happiness can include money, power, sex, safety, commitment, security, love, or anything else the person finds of value. And that can change at any time and from person to person. Let's say you want to ask someone out for a date. I'm being told that chivalry is dead, and that dating today is much different than it ever was, and it's now basically people just get together, get drunk, have sex, and that's it. I'm going to give you an alternate way, a way to get women of your dreams that you would never have a chance at normally. There is a small group of really gorgeous women who never go out with anybody because everybody's afraid of asking them because they're all going to say no. And most of the time they will. However, there are certain times during the week when they are available. It's like fish coming up to feed at night. And that is usually Saturday night between 5 and 6 o'clock p.m. That's when the most beautiful women don't have dates. They're open to the potential of getting a date if you hit them at the right time. Asking them to go get drunk is not going to work. You need to do research because as per the rule states, the rule number 3, they got to get what they want before you get what you want. So therefore, my suggestion is if you want a shot at the most gorgeous women in the world, and I have taken them out, what you need to do is check on them on Facebook and everything else and see what they might want to do. And then be ready with a plan when you call them and say, hey, would you like to do this specific thing in the next hour? Don't give them a lot of time to think. You don't want them to think too much. All right? And then try that. And on a percentage basis, a couple of them out of 10 are probably going to say yes, and you're going to have an interesting time that you would never have any other time in your life.
So this has worked for you before?
Yes. It's because they stay there. No matter what, I don't care whether it was in the dark ages or anything else. There are times the most beautiful women almost never get asked out. But you have to hit them at the right time because they're always waiting to the last minute to see what's best that comes by. And if you're the last one to call them before the night's shot, you'll get it. You'll get your chance. Now, what you do with that chance is up to you, but it's not going to work if you just say that, how do you want to get together? It's got to be something unusual, quirky, and something that they're not used to doing. For instance, a lot of the times I would ask the most gorgeous women to go mountain climbing or something like that so they get full of mud and dirt, something they would never normally do otherwise, or fishing or something like that, way out of the norm, and takes them out of their comfort zone, not safety's eye, but in terms of their minds. And that gives them an area where it's like, oh, sounds interesting, I wasn't doing anything anyway, why not?
So what you're telling me is I have to do something a little more special for the more special girls out there to go and get them.
Yeah, you got to think. You got to put some effort into it, which apparently, from what I'm told, nobody does today. Which means there is no woman outside your realm of possibility, which means you can have anything you want, and most other guys don't because they don't think this way.
Yeah, maybe it'd be a good surprise, good change up for her, and I could use that to my advantage.
Yeah, and then you could be the envy of all the guys saying, how did you get her out like that? And you'll say, I took her mountain climbing, or I took her skin diving, or I took her something else, or I took her sailing at 10 o'clock that night. Try it. Go against the grain. Be different. It'll work.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Okay. All right, let's take some questions.
You talk about making other people happy first before you can be happy. How have you achieved that in your business?
Let's go back a little bit. My grandfather started the company in 1921, and then my father and my uncle were in the business in the 1940s, and they eventually split apart. And in 1971, my father went off on his own. I came into the business in 1977. And it became evident to me very quickly that in order to make myself happy, I had to make my dad happy first. And that was the basis of how the philosophy began. It occurred to me also that the happier he was, the happier I could become, and the more happy he was, the happier I would become still. It was a never-ending process. I've used that idea across the board for all the teams we've created around the world. And it cuts through cultures, it cuts through religions, it cuts through everything. If you're looking out for what the other person wants first and you try to satisfy that need, then you get a chance to get what you want. But until they can have what they want, which is often a job, a chance at a better life, security for their family, you've got no chance to get anywhere. So you have to make the risk that they're going to go first and that you'll get something later. And on a percentage basis, that often happens across the world. Remember, rule number 3, you don't have a chance to get what you want until you give somebody else what they want first. Let's say you got a boss who has a bunch of jobs he hates or she hates, and they start dumping it onto you. Let's say the first job they give you is that you're going to fire people. The second job they give you is you're going to take out the trash. The third job they give you is you're going to do the bookkeeping. The fourth job they give you is you're going to deal with the suppliers, and so on, and so on, and so on. Every time they give you one of their jobs, they're going to get happier. They're also making you more powerful and more indispensable. The more you can do and the less they do, the more powerful you become, and you get what you want, which is you get to keep your job and you get a chance at this job. Because once you can take over all the bad stuff this person does and all the things they don't like, they're losing all their power. As they lose their power, you gain more power. Then you have the chance to get what you want. And whether it's their job or something else, the more dependent they are on you, the more they're going to want to do and keep you around, and the more they're going to do what you want. Now is a good time to talk about organization and structure. I know your eyes just glazed over, but give me a minute that may change your life. Back in the 90s, when personal computers were just coming out, there were not a lot of things you could do with them, except play games and do spreadsheets. We got one because both my dad and I thought they had incredible potential to save time and money, and we were right. As often happened, since we were not formally trained, we ended up utilizing it in a way others had not. Since we had the ability to simply write on a blank screen, I created a form called the log. Originally it was set up to track every order on hand and also watch out for the people I had to call and when. Eventually this blank form morphed into a calendar and diary, where as you can see I simply list various information I need on a day-to-day basis, numbered items of tasks I have to accomplish, and dates for things I have to do in the future. For me, this was enough structure to be able to organize my life, and has grown to a 30-page plus document that I check constantly. If you don't keep some type of list, I guarantee that you're forgetting things. I have a really good memory, and I write notes to myself on paper and via email all the time, not to mention putting them on my log. You need to make your life as efficient as possible. And if you're trying to get what you want from others, then you need to keep track of what you and they have done so far, so you can cash in when the time is right.
Mr. President, how do you relate rule number 3 to dealing with parents?
If your father and your mother are not happy, then you're not going to be happy. And it's very difficult to figure out your parents because they are your parents. However, they are people also. And if you could look at it from that point of view, it will often make things better. For instance, if your parents are doing something that drives you crazy, and you can say to them, look, what you're doing is driving me nuts. I know you want me to do this. If I do this, will you do this? And make an agreement or a compromise with them. In other words, try to alter their behavior by giving them what they want first. Then you have the chance of getting what you want. Being bad, if you try to be disrespectful or you try and push them around or you try and be violent or anything else with them, it's never going to work. They have to want to change. Everyone has to want to change before anything good is going to happen. The trick is to figure out what it is that you have to do to get them to get there. Dealing with your own stuff before you can help others, before they can help you, is paramount. Most people have a terrible time dealing with their own emotions, insecurities, and they in turn make it extremely difficult to deal with other people who are dealing with their own stuff. When I came into the family business as a salesman in 1977, my father told me that learning how to sell and being on the road would be my postgraduate course in learning myself. Because if you don't know who you are, there's no chance you can figure out what the other person wants, and you can't sell. Therefore, you have to learn all of this at the same time, which is extremely difficult and will drive you crazy. But let's break it down into manageable chunks so you don't get overwhelmed. Start with the basics. Use a diagram on a big pad. Stop after each one and change angles. Who, what, when, where, why, how. The basics. Once you have an idea who you are, and that is constantly evolving, then you can figure out what you want in someone else. Again, back to the pad. This time for someone else. Who, what, when, where, why, how. While life is sometimes random and full of surprises, a structured attack can help you increase your odds of finding good candidates for whatever it is you want to achieve. Night riding. My various phobias began appearing when I was in early grammar school, where today most likely I would have been medicated. Back in the 1960s, that was not an option, which in the long run was great for me, but extremely difficult in the younger years of my life. I hated going to school, to the extent that on Sunday nights, I would become extremely anxious about the upcoming week and having to go back to class. I can vividly remember staring at the numbers on my alarm clock, glowing, looking at me as if they were speaking, saying, "It's getting later, you're not sleeping, you're going to be tired tomorrow." It was horrible. The night and the sound of that ticking seemed to get ever louder and never stop tormenting me. Eventually, I would start to roam through the house when I could not sleep, and my father coined the phrase I was night riding like Paul Revere. Although I eventually was able to utilize many of the issues I faced to my advantage, the basic fear of Sunday nights has never left me. Turns out I was not and am not alone. Many people become anxious either on Sunday nights or Monday mornings, or both, because of the fear of what may be coming, and even worse, what we don't know what's possible. Rule number 3 again comes into play. Once again, until you know yourself well, and why you fear, love, hate, loathe, lust, and enjoy what you do, you can never understand what is happening with others. Therefore, I would suggest you stop simply accepting the fear, and again, try and figure out what is wrong, and correct it. So it will both increase your rate of happiness and allow the process to enable you to empathize with others with the same issues. The more you understand yourself, the better you can understand and help others.
Why hasn't anyone else tried to implement a plan like yours before?
Because it seems so obvious and so straightforward and so simple that no one ever thinks about it. To try to help the other person first before you get what you want, it's a concept nobody wants to because they're selfish. We are geared as human beings for survival. We are set up genetically that we have to fulfill what we want first, then maybe our spouses, then our kids. But we're by nature spoiled people. That's how we've survived all this time. And we have to go against our nature, our genetic codes, and go after something more, something better. Help somebody else first with a chance of getting what you're going to want later.
What in your mind makes a good president?
A good president is a good leader, and a good leader is someone who understands the needs and wants of the people under him and those that he wants to be under them. A good president wants to include everyone. A good president doesn't want to build mountains, he doesn't want to build hills, he especially doesn't want to build walls. He doesn't want to keep people out, he wants to bring people in. Because the people he brings in, the immigrants, are the ones who are going to help with innovation, incredible energy, and the willingness to do anything to succeed. Cutting off your immigrants is the worst thing that any leader can do, and only one who is unthoughtful, unforgiving, and with all due respect, dumb is going to even try it. Helpful hints. How to get along with others. We all grow up with various mottos and sayings from our relatives, our friends, our parents, our mentors, and often we don't know what they mean until certain things trigger those events. One of those is, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Listen to this part. In our world of negativity, there's so much that can be said in a good way, but if there's nothing positive, don't say anything. And especially, don't ever write it down, because once it goes into the internet and cyberspace, it never stops coming back at you. Don't be antagonistic. There's no point to it. Why get somebody angry for nothing? If you're getting somebody angry for a purpose, that's one thing. But doing it just to get a reaction is dumb. Remember, you only have a certain amount of emotional ammunition to use both with yourself and others. Don't squander something that's not going to benefit you and them. Try and get along. I know it sounds simple, but it's so hard, and most people don't do it. Trying to get along. Just try to be nice. Try not to do things that are going to get people angry at you. Do things that you know people are going to want and like to do. That's what you want to spend time doing, being positive, growing together, laughing especially, being happy. Why would you want to be around someone who's not happy? Everybody wants to be around the person smiling and having a good time. Do it. Don't think about it. Make an active effort. It's harder to be happy than sad. People want to see you happy. They want to be around you if you're happy. They're going to leave you alone if you're sad, and then you can just be sadder. Doesn't help. Smile. We've gone through this in other episodes. The more you smile in the right situations, the better off you're going to be, because other people will know that you want to be happy and you want to make them happy and you're trying to get along. Again, it shows a positive effort. Be helpful. Yes, it takes effort to be helpful. And yes, you have to give up sometimes something, either energy or money or effort of some kind in terms of your work or expertise or being a mentor. But it makes a giant difference. Not only will it help them, it will help make you feel better, in which case then you'll help them also. It's an ever-growing relationship of being nice to each other. Build it on a good thing, not a bad thing. The difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy means that you're just looking at somebody and feeling sorry for them. It does no good for anybody. Anybody who wants to have sympathy toward them is just looking for a crutch. Empathy is understanding what they're going through and trying to help in some way to alleviate whatever is bothering them. You want to be around empathetic people. Sympathy is worthless. Don't even bother. Empathy is where it's at. Welcome to story time. This is the brook that passes in front of our company. It's pretty, isn't it? It goes about its way, day by day, and it fills up a lot when there's a big storm, but as our landlord always promised, it never overflows badly enough to be a problem for us. I come out and look during different times of the year, summer, winter, spring, fall, watch the water go. It's very calm. It's very pretty. Watch it while I tell this story. Hope you find it calming also. Being a boss is like being a father. You're in charge of a large group of people. You're in charge of their lives, basically, because how their day-to-day goes is basically derived from what you do. If you're happy, they're often happy. If you're sad, they're often sad. If you're angry, they're often angry. As you are, they are for that particular day. So you have a built-in responsibility to try to maintain as high a level of happiness, commitment, efficiency, and power as possible, because that's what corresponds to them. They feed off what you do and they give it back to you. Also, a part of my job and responsibility is to help shape their lives and help point them to where I think it is best for them to go. Now you may ask, are you your brother's keeper? In my case, I believe I am. I believe from my point of view, from being a boss and 30 years or 40 years of experience, depending on when you're figuring for my career, my job has been to watch, to learn, understand human behavior, and try and steer people toward what's best for them and best for the company, which are often the same thing. I love having employees. I love having people around. I love seeing them happy. I love seeing them efficient, and I love seeing them make better lives for themselves and their families. But in order to do that, I often have to make judgments and calls to move them into areas that they might normally not go to. And that has its risks and rewards on a day-to-day and overtime basis. You may ask, how can you think that you can direct people's lives that way? What gives you the right? Well, I don't think of it as a right. I think of it as a responsibility as being a boss and also a dad to my family. However, the unintended consequences can often be dramatic and not what I expect. And that is the part that makes it most difficult. Case in point, a couple years ago, our head of manufacturing, Vice President Vinny Santoro, you remember him from episode 1. He was the guy with the trains. Happy guy, nice guy. And like most of us, he doesn't have a lot of friends from his childhood. He had a couple. And he had one who was dying. And we had a problem with a job in Mexico at our distribution center in Guadalajara, and he was the natural one to go down and fix it. and it meant him being down there for 3 or 4 weeks. I didn't hesitate to send him. He didn't hesitate to go. He was the right man for the right spot, to the right job. There was no question. He knew his friend was dying. We didn't know when it was going to happen, but he wasn't going to wait, and I wasn't going to stop him, and I wasn't going to hold things up because it had to get done. And I figured it was best for everybody if he went. 3 weeks later, the job was completed and done very well under tough conditions. He did a fantastic job as usual, and he started home. Unfortunately, his friend passed about 8 hours before he got back, and he didn't get to say goodbye. That was my fault. Something I will carry with me, and I'm really sorry about. But I did not have a choice for him to go. He knew he had to do it. He did it. It was in everybody's best interest, and I sent him, and I would send him again. But he paid a price for it, and I did too, which I won't forget. Part of being a boss means that you have to make decisions that affect people's lives, directly and indirectly. If you're not willing to do it, don't take the job, because the responsibilities are there. And if you refuse to take them, you're still responsible for the action. Inaction is still an action. Not making a decision is still making a decision. It is tough to be a boss. It's tough to be a parent. But you have to realize it beforehand. Go into it with open eyes. Go into it with open eyes. And do it. And take responsibility, both good and bad. The good part's easy. The bad part's okay. It's the unintended consequences that can really get you in the end. And they're the ones that keep you honest.
How do you prepare to be president?
You have to be ready, mind, body, and soul across the board. You have to be able to study. You have to be able to look back at what you've done. You have to be able to see the mistakes you've made. You have to be willing to admit them. You have to be able to change things. You have to have people around you who are better at what they do than you are, so that they can do their job so you can do your job better. The best leaders are not jealous. They're not spoiled. They don't look at other people as threats. And also, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself in mind, in body, in soul. And one of the things we do is we exercise. It's one of the great things. And I think all presidents should be able to prove themselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. Which is why at the end of this press conference, I will do 20 push-ups in 30 seconds. That will be my proof to you that I am set physically. If I do not do it, I accept your ridicule gladly. Intern, please. Thank you. Please roll credits. Thanks for watching. And now, a word from our legal department.
Hello out there, and thanks for tuning in. We hope what you see will turn your frown to a grin. But the viewpoints here are for entertainment only. We make no promises you won't be lonely. It's not our intent to counsel your life, tell you what to do, or how to get a man or a wife. Your life is yours, like your job and your kids, responsibility for which you'll never be rid. We have no liability for anything that you do. If your life doesn't work out, you can only blame you. But some new ideas are always fun for everyone. Now our song is done.